Alright everybody, so today I want to talk to you about glycolysis. And the way that I like to think about glycolysis first, or the way that I like to teach glycolysis, is to first have the students learn about each metabolite in the pathway first. And by learning about each of the metabolites, and specifically the names of the metabolites, which is actually a fairly easy naming convention, learning the enzymes will actually make much more sense. So if you look up in the top left, I've got what's essentially this little key for you. And specifically, the numbers represent where the phosphate groups are in each of the metabolites in the pathway. So moving from, say, top to bottom and left to right, you'll notice that it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I figured the way that you read, which is top to bottom, left to right, it would make learning where the phosphate groups are just like make it a little bit more simple. So in this instance up here, you'd have like a phosphate group in the 1 position. Here it would be in the 3 position, and here would be the 6th position. So if we look first at the way that I've got these metabolites arranged, you'll notice that I've got them grouped into 5 distinct boxes. And the first box would be the glucoses, and then the next one would be the fructoses. And then there's this other box that I haven't really categorized specifically, but I do like to call just the weird box, because the metabolites are a little bit weird and don't follow really any kind of naming convention. Moving on, we have the phosphoglycerates, and then we have the pyruvates. So if we just jump right into things, the first metabolite that we have to start out with is, of course, glucose. And then as we move along the pathway, you'll notice that there's a phosphorus group in the 6th position. So this particular metabolite would be called glucose 6-phosphate, or G6P, as I like to abbreviate it. So then moving on, we have a box of fructose molecules. And specifically, we have a phosphate group in the 6th position. So this is going to be called fructose 6-phosphate. Also seems fairly intuitive. And if you follow the convention, you'll also notice that the next metabolite, we have a phosphate in the 1 position and one in the 6th position. So this metabolite is going to be called fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. And the bis, in this case, just means 2, or 2 phosphate groups. And then as we move on to the right, we get to the weird category, which is what I like to call it. Weird. Pretty weird. And fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, it gets converted into what's called dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and then glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, which is this one up here. I'll just write glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, so we have a phosphate group in the 3 position. So then moving on, we have the phosphoglycerates. So we have phosphate groups in the 1 and the 3 position. So it would make sense that this molecule would be called 1,3-bis, because we have 2 phosphates, phosphoglycerate, bisphosphoglycerate. So 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. And then the next one, we have a phosphate group in the 3 position, so it's going to be 3-phosphoglycerate. Moving on, we've noticed now that this phosphate group has magically now been placed in the 2 position. So this is going to be 2-phosphoglycerate. And then moving on, we have the pyruvates. And the way that I like people to just know this group is to simply just know the names themselves. So pep goes to pyruvate, pep goes to pyruvate, pep goes to pyruvate, pep goes to pyruvate. Just know that, and that'll just hopefully make your life easier. So pyruvate, though, very important molecule at the end of glycolysis. It's a molecule that is fed into a number of other pathways that you're going to learn eventually. So I will basically stop there in terms of the metabolites, and also just make a note that at various stages in this pathway, you're going to have other important pathways feeding in and out of glycolysis. And I'm going to talk about these in later lessons, and they will be important for step exams. And hopefully the methods that I use in these videos will help you remember these pathways and make them a little bit more memorable. In any case, anyway, I hope this video has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.